How many times did Reverend Craig tell us that it was going to be 9:30 today? And look at us. Come on, folks. All of you are so welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Monmouth County. My name is Judy Stevens. I use pronouns she and her. I serve as chair of the non-committee but very active community life. I'll leave that because I've got enough to say at the end of this. I'm going to leave any of the couple sentences about our committee. You're always welcome to help out. I will always contact you if you let me know that you're interested, and you'll get completely subsumed in the very active community life of this congregation. Whoever you are, whomever you love, and however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. I draw your attention to the back side of your orders of service for announcements and service information for next week. For those of you on live stream and for video viewers, the order of service link is available to you in the YouTube service description box. After the service, refreshments will be served in the community room, and people of all ages are welcome to come and visit with one another. If you are new to us, please do check our website, UUCMC.org, where you can sign up to get all the latest news of the congregation by email. We look forward to getting to know you better. Please put your devices on silent as we enter into worship together. Welcome again to this place of love and hope. And as many of you know and have known, and Pride Week, Pride Month, and many of us will be heading off to Asbury Park to join in the Pride Parade. The first time we went to Pride, I think, was its third year. And this will be about our 20th year, continuous year of attending Pride Parade. I frequently get asked, both while I was chairing Welcoming Congregation and as I do my annual bit about saying, come join us at Pride Parade, why are we still doing this? Why is it needed? It is indeed a celebration. It's not a political rally, it's not an awareness-raising rally, it's to have fun and celebrate. But the other side of that is we all know that LGBTQ plus issues are under attack, that people are under attack. In President Trump's first day in office, he made a point of pacifying the far right by passing 2 bits of legislation that addressed trans issues, and especially those of trans kids. In his first month, he passed 6 pieces of legislation that had to do with suppressing the rights of LGBTQ plus people. In 2025 alone, there were 604 pieces of legislation in state offices, 22 of which passed resoundingly in those states, minimizing the rights of LGBTQ plus people or placing oppressions on their rights. It is indeed hard to overstate, along with the stomped upon rights of Black people, Indigenous peoples, certainly immigrants, about what we are under siege as individuals in this country. It behooves us to go out and stand with all of our brethren to show that love is love, that hate has no place in our country, in our politics, in our interactions with one another, that love indeed is the only path we can truly and responsibly take. I hope to see some of you at the parade. Thank you for my soapbox. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Tchaikovsky wrote a piano suite entitled The Seasons, although a more proper translation might be The Months. He didn't have 4 of them like Vivaldi did or Piazzolla, but there are 12, 1 for each month. And I've played others, October, I believe, in January. They're all lovely, but June is an absolute favorite, one of my favorites. Tchaikovsky's seemingly infinite gift of melody is on full display here, and euphony and beauty. So I love playing the June barcarolle whenever June arrives. Of course, I also think of him for the other way, given this month, and how poor Tchaikovsky, like many musicians and many composers, lived in such a scary silence his whole life. Of course, scholarship and what we know now just accepts that he was a homosexual. Who knows what his pronouns would have been? I think he would have loved the Asbury Park Pride Parade today. You can hear his pain and his beauty throughout all of his music, but particularly in this. A barcarolle is a Venetian gondola song. So it's a song that the gondoliers would sing in Venice. It became wildly popular in classical music to write barcarolles as classical pieces. The one requirement being it has that swaying accompanimental pattern in the left hand, like the boat, while there's an unfolding melody in the right hand.
See. It's a thing missing from the podium. Anyway, every morning it's different on Sunday. People use our facility during the week, and who knows where things go. Welcome. It's good to see you. I'm Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano. I'm pleased to greet you this morning on the first Sunday of June, when our congregational theme is flourishing together. And what better theme to kick off LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Happy Pride, everybody. And yes, there is a need for pride, as Judy reminds us, and as a relative of mine said to her fellow straight cisgender folks in responding to floods of people commenting negatively on the existence of Pride Month. She wrote on Facebook, "These celebrations take nothing from you. The fact that you feel the need to comment is itself the best example why Pride Month is so important." So, and especially for transgender, non-binary, gender nonconforming, gender creative people of all stripes. This is a serious era of eroding rights, vanishing access to life-giving services, even threats to their very existence. So this morning we'll try to celebrate while not ignoring the fact that we are in a perilous time of political trans baiting meant to sway the votes of bigoted or sadly ignorant constituents. Many of you know that my speaking on these topics from the pulpit goes back 10 years ago to a time when I was serving as your ministerial intern, and back to one sermon in particular. Stemming directly from that sermon, I developed, wrote, and defended my PhD dissertation, and I even wrote a scholarly book on the subject. So I thought, in honor of the 10th anniversary of that sermon, I'd go back and speak this morning in its context, combined with what's been happening in the interim. I want to thank, for lighting our chimes, our now overqualified graduate of the Master of Divinity program, Michelle Kenzie Creech. Who knew it took an MDiv to ring the chimes? But thank you, thank you. And those of you joining the parade, 11:30 in front of the municipal building, look for the UUCMC banner. We'll be ready to head down Main Street at noon. Our call to worship, with the word worship containing within it its original definition of a shaping concern for all that is of worth, and this morning adding in hope a shaping concern for all are of worth, comes to us from the Reverend Dr. Kimmy Floyd Reish. They are an ordained minister through the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries and a two-spirit leader whose work centers Indigenous identity, LGBTQ plus advocacy, and the sacred practice of reweaving what empire has torn apart, in their words. They title this piece, which specifically invokes Unitarian Universalist legacy, Beacons. Beloveds, we were never meant to hide in closets, and we were never to be spoken of in whispered corners by a world filled with others afraid of their own reflections. We are from the flame of William Ellery Channing's truth, of Olympia Brown's restlessness, of Lou Alcott's defiance of societal expectations, and Thoreau's solitude of freedom of solitude. We are here, heirs of a theology that says that love is love, that soul is not gendered, that covenants live in hearts, not courtrooms. Laws can be cruel and narrow, but our faith remains wide, widening still more until every child hears their pronouns in liturgies. And every parent of a trans child hears their entire congregation reflect back, "You are not alone," in the face of their fears. We have always been here, from pulpits to picket lines, from the ancestors called heretics to our kitchen tables, where we sat with chosen families, speaking our truths into becoming real. This world may pass bans, overturn laws, rewrite constitutions, threaten us, But our marriages were holy before they were licensed, and our identities were sacred before they had names. Today, again, and every day, bless those coming out and those staying in. Bless the drag, bless the transitioning, bless the questioning, bless the kinfolk, bless our chosen families, and bless us, because we have faced ourselves, loved ourselves, seen ourselves, and we declare we are beauty and goodness and unicorns with a bit of rainbow and a lot of heart. We gather now in the wake of their efforts to erase, as a sign that we are not so easy to erase, and knowing that we are literally love becoming. We were never meant to hide. We were always meant to blaze. Come, let us worship together. The flame placed in our chalice each time we gather together speaks to the Unitarian Universalist courage to be, even in the face of danger, a symbol born of wartime and the promise of freedom from oppression. I invite Tom McCormack to light our chalice flame this morning. And our chalice lighting words come to us from UU minister, the Reverend Scott Taylor, wrote these words especially in honor of this month's declared theme of flourishing together, speaking to the beauty of our being bound to one another in service of a wider freedom of being. Notice now this flame, seeming so singular, dancing all alone. Yet, pull back, look with more attentive eyes, and slowly the chalice cup comes into view, and the air around it that, while unseen, keeps the flame alive. All of it a reminder that being lovingly surrounded and beautifully bound is what sets us free and allows us to flourish. May this be the gift of this precious hour. May we too pull back and see ourselves anew, how tenderly tethered we are, and how wonderfully that sets us free. Thank you. I invite us to rise in body and our spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 1018 in the teal hymnal and on the screens. Come and go with me.
morning. So before we begin our story, I want to tell you a little bit about my shirt. It says, "Our faith is love" in rainbow print. We made these shirts a few years ago because Pride is a time when we show up for one another and for ourselves. It's a time when we celebrate living honestly, loving openly, and knowing we belong exactly as we are. In our Unitarian Universalist faith, we believe that every person has worth and dignity. This means that we celebrate the many ways people and families are beautifully different. The story that we're about to read, "'Twas the Night Before Pride," is told from the perspective of a child who has two moms. I remember when my own child was in school, and I remember that moment. It was actually here at the Lincroft Center for Children. He was in kindergarten, and I was standing in the room, and it was his birthday. The other kids in his class looked around and said, "Two moms?" And I sort of held my breath to see what the response of the other children would be, and they said, "Wow, that's really cool. I wish I had two moms." So as we read, you'll notice all the colorful illustrations, so many different people from the LGBTQ community, along with their families, their friends, and their allies. This book reminds us that Pride isn't just a parade. It's about community and joy, courage, and making sure that everyone knows that they are loved. So let's settle in for "'Twas the Night Before Pride" by Joanna McClintock and illustrated by Juana Medina. 'Twas the night before Pride, a warm evening in June. All the people got ready with the rise of the moon. The drag queens all brushed their wigs with great care, and the bikers checked their tires to make sure they had air. All across the city, people's outfits were planned and instruments polished for the queer marching band. My mom told us all we should go to bed early. She's the kind of mom who's more boyish than girly. While Mama finished packing our snacks in a bag, Sammy started chewing on the edge of our flag. As I finished my sign, which I laid on the floor, I remembered the prides I'd been to before. All day we walk in the streets, up and down. Pride's one of the best celebrations around. There are floats and loud music and rainbows and glitter. Last year we ran into our babysitter. Tomorrow will be baby Sammy's first Pride. Can we tell the whole story? I hopefully cried. So we sat on the couch, a mom on each side, and took turns telling the tale of our very first Pride. A long time ago, in 1969, there wasn't a Pride March. It was a less fair time. Queer people all over, of each shape and size, didn't have any rights recognized. So much of their lives they had had to keep hidden. Even their clothing was sometimes forbidden. Stonewall was a place where it was safe to be proud, but police would storm in and say this wasn't allowed. So one hot night in June, people stopped being quiet. They decided to fight and started a riot. More and more people gathered to fight back in the heat. Some started a kick line in the middle of the street. Police broke up the crowd night after night, but the people stood strong, knowing this wasn't right. And so it began, a march that spread worldwide to show everyone it's good to have pride. Sometimes it happens we're not given respect. It can take a long time for some to accept. That's why every year we all get together and march in the streets, no matter the weather. Although I am glad the weather's good today. to know that we matter, to show all we exist, and that any oppression we must always resist. So pride's not just about tutus and rainbow suspenders. It's about rights for queers and all our beautiful genders. Pride's a day that is crowded. It's a day that is long. It's a day that means together we are strong. As I closed my eyes, I thought of Pride's past. Pride means to me, being yourself is a blast. So tomorrow I will march with my family in cheer. Happy Pride to all. It's great to be here. May it be so. And now let us sing our children and youth to go now in peace. We're going outside to play. Okay.
Every week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and to our social justice partners through the good works of organizations which receive half the monies collected each month. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Interfaith Refugee and Immigrant Services and Empowerment, I Rise. With offices in Asbury Park, Highland Park, Vineland, and Trenton, I-RISE facilitates and supports the self-sufficiency and community integration of refugees and asylees from across the world through affordable housing, English language proficiency, employment services, and cultural orientation, and by providing access to social, mental health, and healthcare services. For those of you present here in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by the ushers. Online, instructions are located in the service description box. You may join this time of generosity via text, send your offering by mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating an amount to I-RISE. Please give generously.
10 years ago, during that first service when I spoke about mermaids and gender creativity, I invited a congregant to the pulpit to speak to her own gender creative experience. 10 years later, I thought it only appropriate to give her an invite to reflect back, reflect forward, reflect however she wished. Even knowing personally, however, the strain of being on these occasions the one asked to speak to one's own non-normative identity. I'm deeply grateful that she agreed to bless us this morning. Thank you, Melissa Faley.
Hello, happy Pride. Many of you know I'm Melissa Ann Feely with she, her, hers pronouns. I'm joined today by my wife Justine, who also uses she, her pronouns. You could also call her Kitty, and a dear friend of mine, Jessica. Most of you know me because I've been a UU member for many years, and you have become a part of my life journey as chosen family, for which I am blessed to share it with you. You and UUCMC have played an important part in my life, offering love, support, acceptance, understanding, and much more at a time when it was needed. Thank you. For those of you who are new to my journey, I'm a middle-aged woman with transgender experience who transitioned late in life. At a time during my first marriage, I realized something was different inside of me, and I had no idea why I had these certain feelings. I was a husband, a father, I had a beautiful daughter, Caitlin, and handsome son, Austin. I had an active life focusing on my family, home, and career, so I suppressed the feelings. But they didn't stay quiet. With feelings of disgust about the growing feelings and yearning to be feminine, I sought out therapy. The ill feelings were because that is what society taught me to feel about queer people. I was raised with straight parents, surrounded by straight people. Queer was a derogatory word. It wasn't taught in school. I didn't know any queer people besides what I saw on TV. And information was limited with no internet. This type of ignorant mentality is why queer people hide their identity and consider self-harm. We must change this. During therapy, I learned about the word transgender. I still tried to suppress it, but it is not something that can be chosen. So I learned to slowly embrace it. With my limited upbringing about queer people and learning about the term transgender late in life, it shows that I was not groomed, thus helping to debunk the rumor about kids being groomed. I maintained my responsibilities of what was expected of me and squeezed in time to express myself away from my family. But that led to me losing my wife to divorce and being pushed out of my job, both of which I had for over 20 years. This came with much mental pain because I felt unlovable. At this point, I found UUCMC, where you accepted me as I am, masculine, feminine, or a blend of the two. 10 years ago, our beloved Craig shared a sermon about gender where I spoke for the Search of Meaning. As he revisits the theme today, I'm honored to speak again. Thank you, Craig. You are a blessing. During the time of this past 10 years, I replaced the ill feelings with pride of being transgender. As much as I want to be seen as a regular pretty woman, I embraced being uniquely different because I wasn't meant to be a cisgender woman. My body developed with masculine physical traits and features, and I have a lower voice. I am different, not less than. I empowered myself to start gender-affirming care and make changes at my pace, to resist society's expectations of how to dress, how to act, and what I should look like, etc. I married Justine and found a passion for motorcycles and off-roading in my Jeep. I came out to work, my current job of 16 years, who accepted me and allowed me to live authentically without suppressing myself. I just returned from working in Italy, where I was able to reveal who I am and who I've been hiding from them. Life was coming together. It was wonderful. So it's coming together again, especially as I prepare to turn to my next chapter in life, retirement. Okay. Unfortunately, the current political environment is harshly changing everything. I find myself living in fear and sadness again, as our government is spreading ignorant lies and seeking to erase gender-diverse people. I'm sacrificing freedom of expression somewhat for safety of blending in. My voice is low. My voice now is something that I must change to avoid being targeted. Same for my masculine features. I think twice when going places out of fear of being harassed or even arrested, such as to like a motorcycle rally or a Jeep jamboree, depending on what state it is in. This administration is putting our human rights up for debate. We are being chained to how we are assigned at birth. I was born with male organs inside, but that is not who I am. This mentality of not honoring science or who a person says they are is causing mental anguish and physical hardship for thousands of gender-diverse people. My empathy for these people hurts so much because it isn't right, and I can't help them. The hateful, ignorant rhetoric is spreading to state and local authorities and even just your average people. I had a conversation with a coworker who appeared to be an ally. He said, I'm okay with you. But he's concerned that people like me might hurt his daughter in a restroom, so he would vote accordingly. The realization and the fact that average people like him would vote against the rights of transgender people based on lies became a very scary thought. Protections are being erased. History is being erased. Even identities are being erased, as some states are canceling IDs, such as driver's license. The federal government is trying to cancel passport changes, but it is held up in court, luckily. The court case is how I was able to change my passport, but I fear it being changed back. This year, nearly 800 anti-transgender laws were introduced. 127 of them were from the federal government. I worry about the midterm elections, and moving to another country is now part of my worries. As a transgender person, we don't transition to become someone else. We spend a great deal of time soul searching to realize we need to stop pretending to be the person we were expected to be. I can't explain why I am who I am. What I do know is I am proud to be the woman I fought for. I may tone down myself for safety, but will proudly and boldly stand up to fight for the rights of marginalized and queer people. Today in Asbury Park is one of those days. We will prevail one way or another. Thank you for your time, your love, understanding, and support.
Thank you, Melissa. Minister and best-selling author Robert Fulghum, UU minister, as a matter of fact, recounts being left in charge of 80 children, aged 10 and below, at a congregational function and engaging them in a game of giants, wizards, and elves. Now, this is a game like rock, paper, scissors, writ large, with children performing one of three identities for a series of face-offs in which giants beat elves, elves beat wizards, and wizards beat giants. So Fulgham instructed the kids, which are you, a giant, a wizard, or an elf? Decide now. Well, as the children prepared to launching into embodying one of these magical creatures, Fulgham felt a tug on his pant leg, and as he bent down to attend to the young child's request, he heard, "Excuse me, where do the mermaids stand?" When Fulgham explained that there were no mermaids, the child, determined, responded matter-of-factly, "Oh yes, I am one." Well, Fulgham recalls that he had the presence of mind in the moment to respond with something to the effect that mermaids should stand right next to the king of the sea, indicating himself, but later, upon reflection, he realized the poignancy of the child's question. Where do the mermaids stand? In other words, how does one fully participate in life when the categories of identity on offer don't seem to encompass the felt essence of one's soul? Fulgham understood that a creative answer to that question was the kernel from which a better world could be cultivated. The figure of the mermaid is a potent one for gender nonconforming children in our culture today, as Dr. Diane Aronsaft, one of the leading psychologists specializing in counseling these children and their parents, makes clear. She writes, "In my work with transgender little girls and gender fluid little boys, particularly gender hybrids, one kind of body on top, another on the bottom, mermaids are indeed very popular." It makes total sense. Fluidity, hybridity, trans identity, the vocabulary for gender designation, or indeed for opting out thereof, is running apace with the diverse emergence of a veritable gender creative movement in our culture. And with it, as has already been referenced this morning, a particularly mean-spirited backlash. Just since 2023, at least 1,641 anti-LGBTQ plus bills have been proposed in U.S. state legislatures across the country. They fall into 7 broad categories. First, limiting people's ability to update gender information on identification cards, resulting in its being increasingly difficult for transgender, non-binary, gender expansive, intersex, gender creative people to travel, apply for employment, even to enter premises where an ID is necessary. Second, freedom of expression bans, for instance, prohibitions on drag shows, or sequestering or banning books in which LGBTQ plus characters appear, erasing these voices from classrooms. Third, healthcare restrictions, banning gender affirmative care for trans youth, even creating criminal penalties for those offering this essential care, or blocking insurance coverage of this care, or denying it to imprisoned populations. Fourth, public accommodation bans, like prohibiting people from using restrooms or locker rooms that correspond to their gender identity. Fifth, restricting student and educator rights by attempting to prevent trans students from participating in school activities through sports or sports facilities bans, curricula censorship, or mandating the forced outing of trans students in school by teachers and school staff. 6, weakening civil rights protection by redefining sex as indicating solely potential reproductive ability and allowing religious exceptions for bigotry so that people can harass and exclude trans people from services based on warped understandings of ancient religious texts. And 7, not fitting the preceding 6 categories, bans on marriage rights or bills preempting local non-discrimination protections. 10 such bills are active in New Jersey, largely focused on school and healthcare restrictions. All this being done under the guise of protecting women and children, despite all credible research showing that access to all the things such legislation seeks to block can vastly improve gender-creative people's lives, especially those of children, and that removing such access leads to harm, violence, suicide, and murder. As Dr. Aronsof writes in her latest book, 2024's Gender Explained, this legislation is not about saving children. Instead, it is a social manifestation of anxiety and the desperate need to point a finger at an identifiable cause of fear so that attempts can be made to get rid of the so-called danger. It is an exploitation of fear for political ends. Rather than saving children, the legislation has already and will continue to put many children and adolescents at risk. In my own research over the years, I discovered the truth in the words of Edgardo Menville, a psychologist colleague of Diane Aronsof, that a person's gender is no less and no more than a creative individual achievement, and yet it can only develop through social exchange. The paramount task of advocacy, then, is not aiding children and other gender-creative people into better approximating rigid, culturally defined gender identity codes. The more present challenge towards which our efforts must be directed is the careful attunement of the social exchange in which individual gender achievements are realized. Whether we be parents, guardians, teachers, ministers, youth group leaders, or indeed members of congregations interested in working with and providing sanctuary and advocacy for families of gender nonconforming children and for transgender and gender fluid persons of all ages. Aronsof's concept of gender creativity stems from the fact that gender has significantly different meanings for different people. She articulates a model to help us relearn gender, and she's upfront about the fact that such a reframing will be required, necessary, of all of us. So thoroughly are ourselves saturated with conceptions of gender tied neatly to equally tidy notions of sex. She first argues that we need to move beyond notions of deviance or even variance. And then she similarly eschews the model of a gender spectrum because of its inherent two-dimensional horizontality as a metaphor. Rather, Aronsof conceives of a gender web deployed in three dimensionalities, side to side as well as up and down. This gender web encompasses any person's designated gender, that which appears on the birth certificate, the person's gender expressions, those feelings, behaviors, activities, attitudes that communicate to both self and other one's presentation of self as either male, female, or other, and the person's core gender identity, the inner sense of self as male, female, or other. Designated gender, gender expressions, core gender identity, all of those deploying fluidly for every person over the course of time. Of course, the majority of people discover a largely adequate fit among designated, expressed, and core gender. Many, however, do not. And it is toward those children that Aronsof's efforts are primarily directed in describing this purposefully elastic category of gender creative, a developmental position in which the child transcends the culture's normative definitions of male-female to creatively interweave a sense of gender that comes neither totally from the inside, the body, the psyche, nor totally from the outside, the culture, others' perceptions, but resides somewhere in between. The figure of the mermaid is an apt symbol for this in-between existence, although gender creativity would embrace a more expansive realm of possibilities, even that available to the mermaids of lore. But importantly and differently from almost any other identity-based minority population, gender-creative persons, especially children, have an additional mark against them in that they may face dispersion from their very own family, loved ones who are supposed to be their protectors. Congregations are uniquely poised environments in which to extend support and care, as well as uniquely open spaces in which all can learn about gender expansiveness for ourselves and for others. It is surely an exercise in understatement to suggest that religious bodies have done a less than adequate job of providing some of the protective sanctuary gender fluid people may need to aid them in finding their true gender selves. In fact, some of the worst violence, threatened and realized, has taken shape in the context of conservative religious communities. In a biblically based world in which God has created only man and woman, the gender creative child serves as a living rupture to the perceived natural order of things. We can all do better. We are all called to provide a place for gender expansive people to stand in their hard-won authenticities. And by the word stand, I move beyond an ableist vision of being upright on 2 feet or 1 fin. I mean to create a place, in keeping with our congregational theme for June, where we can flourish together. One longs for a world in which there would no longer be a need for the now annual International Transgender Day of Remembrance, which commemorates victims of anti-transgender violence. The tragically frequent incidents of transgender teen suicide, coupled with a documented high rate of violence against gender nonconforming people of all ages, suggest strongly that access to gender creativity is poised at a point where life itself is on the line. It is from this knowledge that Aronsoft and others are crafting a course forward for gender creative parenting, the skills for which are transferable to pastoral modalities and to congregational dynamics. Now, among religious faith traditions, Unitarian Universalism is at the very forefront of advocacy for and inclusion of transgender persons of all ages. Yet rigid notions of gender are so entrenched in our self-understandings that it can be challenging to see through a new lens. Achieving transformation requires work on the part of all of us, requires striving towards gender creative sensibilities. It is so very often the religious or philosophical beliefs embedded within us that make the difference between surrendering to coercive legislation of children and others' gender outcomes and a transformative negotiation of our internalized gender strictures so as to become the allies desperately needed in this country of ours, so out of step often with compassion and with facts. Taking a cue from the charge Aronsoft urges on parents to ally alongside their children, I just share 4 simple-sounding yet deeply difficult emotional tools that we all need to work on. And you'll see that these not only help us become better advocates, they'll help us become better situated in our own skins. So first, Aronsoft says we need to achieve personal success in working through and feeling comfortable in our own gender, whatever that may be. To the extent that we can live non-reactively in our own bodies, the difference represented by the authenticities of others in our midst can exist alongside us without representing a threat to our own. So much of the discomfort I have had with gender-conforming lives is tied to my own lived-through dramas of gender adherence. All those times I wasn't walking right, or speaking with the right inflections, or having the right interests, or liking the right music. All the times I squelched my natural impulses have built up in me an often unconscious resentment toward anyone who has the courage just to be themselves. It's my own loss I need to work through. Secondly, Aronsoft articulates that we need to develop the capacity to stay steady when the going gets rough. Not letting yourself get bowled over by anxiety or head for the hills when you see conflict coming your way, either from within yourself or between yourself and someone else. Each of us needs to be better equipped to remain calm in the face of the low self-differentiation among those in our care and among the authorities with whom we are in negotiation for children and others' safety and well-being. When we achieve self-differentiation, when we have worked through the ghosts of our own struggles and missed opportunities, we can remain strong in the face of others who perhaps just haven't had the reason or the awareness to work through theirs. It's a long-term project. It will take time and patience. Third, and this is especially important for parents, Aronsoft emphasizes the capacity to decenter. That means taking the focus off yourself, seeing your child or child in our congregation as a separate person, not a mini ambassador for our parenting or our internally held values. Decentering means reflecting and organizing around their needs rather than our own. We do not own children, even our own children. They are not accessories to our personal needs. Rather, we take on the responsibility for the care of often radically different sensibilities in the form of the children who are born to us and those around us. And fourth and finally, Aaronsaf emphasizes bonds of love. Bonds so stalwart that they transcend all other adversities that come our way. With the secure attachment upon which our children and others can rely comes the ability to side with them, even in the face of, in the case of gender-creative children, what may be a cruel reception by others. I doubt many of us have experienced the series of affronts that gender nonconforming children and their parents experience, navigating their ways through the various systems, educational, health, religious, social policy, that are in theory meant to provide the basic support that children need to grow into themselves with dignity. But I know I and we can find more love in ourselves to help stay there and our courses. Why should we attend these challenges? Why should we reflect on our inner gender messages? Consider how they might be communicated wittingly or unwittingly to those around us, and learn what we want to keep and those we want to discard as we go? Well, again, in the words of Aaronsaf, because anything less will cause harm to children of any gender, not to mention the families they live with, the schools they attend, the communities they reside in, and the culture at large. Where do the mermaids stand? Where do they flourish? It is my hope that with an increased creative sensibility about gender, the mermaids in our midst can more freely flourish wherever their hearts desire. This sermon is yet another tentative gesture on my creative determination to do ever better in providing a place for the authentic selves of gender nonconforming people in our communities to emerge in their own time, over time, to give us all a place to flourish together. And may it be so. I learned of Robert Fulgham's encounter with the mermaid through a song setting of his account written by a college friend of mine, folk singer-songwriter Melinda Stanford. In the song, a school child tells the story of a new kid named Lucy, who not only insists that she's a mermaid, but declares the song's narrator to be the queen of the sea. I like to imagine the narrator as a vibrant, gender nonconforming child, being given the chance to emerge into their authentic self. So I end my remarks by sharing the song with you. May its spirit of adventuresome self-discovery and advocacy be our charge this morning. Giants and wizards and elves was the game to play. We like to bump and make noise and run around with the boys anyway. While all the mommies and dads went to the PTA, all the kids would gather around to play. Each time we would choose which one of the three to be. The kids ran to find their place, but I couldn't decide which one was me. The tall kids played the giants, the elves were the nerds. The wizards, the smart ones, the rest sorted into thirds. One day a new kid named Lucy was there. She wore a dress the color of the sea and had long golden hair. When the wizard in charge yelled, "Choose what you'll be," Lucy came over and whispered to me. And she said, "Where do the mermaids stand? Where do the mermaids stand?" I said, "There are no mermaids. Be a wizard with me." "Oh no," she said, "I am a mermaid, and you're the queen of the sea." Well, no one had ever called me the queen of the sea, even though I wasn't sure what it was. It seemed more like me. So I said, "Where do the mermaids stand? Where do the mermaids stand?" All the kids gathered round, they gave up playing the game. "Everyone's a mermaid," Lucy said, "but no two mermaids look the same." When the wizard in charge yelled, "Choose what you'll be," the wizards, the giants, and elves began to shout with glee, "Where do the mermaids stand? Where do the mermaids stand? Where do the mermaids stand?" I invite us into a time of prayer and meditation with words from Associate Pastor at St. John's Presbyterian Church in San Francisco, the Reverend Sam Lundquist, who is dedicated to reimagining worship in his tradition in light of a spirit of inclusive life and love. Here is Reverend Sam's prayer for pride. God of wild love and extravagant acceptance, Spirit of boldness and beauty, you are faithfully present in both the grit and glitter of life, and you are present with us now, here. Awaken us to your dream for creation, a world in which every member of the human family is free to flourish however you have made them. Forgive us for the moments we have held back your ever-flowing current of love, dignity, and justice. Remake us into a people eager to see you in the faces, bodies, and expressions of all people. Remind each of us to step out of the shadows of our lives and to shine fearlessly and courageously. Ignite the divine light within us to sparkle through the prisms of our bodies and brighten every corner of this earth. Holy One, you call each of us beloved, each of us cherished, each of us desired, each of us sacred. And so we give you thanks, now and forever. Amen. For our closing hymn, I'm going to invite us to remain seated. And I'm going to invite us to sing number 1053 in the Teal hymnal and on the screens, How Could Anyone? We're going to sing it 3 times through. So this first time, really pay attention to the lyrics in whatever way you find they come to you. second time, I invite you to summon up a specific person in your life, or perhaps notice the person seated right next to you this morning and sing it to them. This third and last time through, perhaps the hardest challenge of all, I invite you to sing it to yourselves. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Remember, meet in front of the municipal building, 11:30, ready to march down South Main Street beginning at noon. Our closing words of benediction come to us from UU minister, the Reverend Darcy Roque, based in New Orleans. They entitle their words, "Each of us ministers to a weary world." There's too much hardship in this world not to find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world not to right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world not to heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day. Let us go in peace to bless the world.